Okay, welcome. So I am here today to go over some of the introductory lesson to machines. Basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through these 10 different machines and discussing the input into the machine, the output from the machine, and then kind of rolling that up into a single sentence that describes what each one of these machines does. So hopefully that will help you with the homework if you haven't already gotten those. But after that, you'll be wanting to do a few machines on your own, so then you'll have these examples to work from. So with that, let's jump into what we want to do today. So, what is a machine? That's the question we're going to go over today. So, let's move on. So the things to consider: what does the machine do? This is basically going to be, this is going to be the output of the machine. And then what does it take in order for the machine to be able to do it? That will be the input of the machine. Now, when thinking about the input of the machine, I would really think about what is essential for the machine to operate. There are a lot of things that a lot of these machines require, without which they can't operate possibly at all, sometimes not even well. We'll go over an example of that, but really think about what is the one thing that if the machine doesn't have it, everything about the machine stops working. So the example I have of that is the car. Now the output is pretty straightforward. The output is just going to be motion. All right. Cars generate motion, faster motion than a human being could do. That's really what we're looking for. We're looking, typically in outputs, we're looking for something that's beyond the capacity of what human beings can do. Sometimes it's faster motion, sometimes it's more forceful motion. In this case, the car motion is faster and often significantly more forceful. But I'll leave it at motion for now. Now, the input, you might be tempted to think about the driver as being an input because a car doesn't operate particularly well without a driver. However, all of the mechanisms of the car could operate without a driver. So if you had, something to hold the gas pedal down and something to, make sure that the wheels turned in order to stay on the road, the car could basically run without a driver. So it does need to be operated. It doesn't operate well, but all the functions of the car work without a driver. What the car needs, what it's converting into motion. So the other thing is you can think about what is the input that it's converting into motion. And what it's converting into motion is gasoline. So if we were to roll this up into a sentence, we would say the car converts gasoline into motion. So that would be rolling this function of this machine into a sentence, okay? So we're going to think about that for the rest of the machines as well. Now, the second machine, this is a crowbar. Now, hopefully, if you've never used one of these, I definitely suggest it, but just to get the experience. But hopefully you can tell from the picture what the crowbar is doing is it's basically applying a lifting force to this board here. So the output would be a lifting force. Now, and we could even call it like a pushing force maybe, depending on how you oriented the crowbar. Now for the input, interestingly enough, it's basically just another force from the human. So it is another force, but the important thing is, why do we use the crowbar? Well, basically, because the force you can exert with your hands and your fingers wouldn't be enough to rip apart those two, that board that's had two nails stuck through it. You need a higher amount of force to do that, and that's what the crowbar does. So the input is actually a force, but it's smaller. So when we think about what it is that the crowbar is doing, the crowbar is converting a small force into a large force. Now, it turns out that that won't be sort of an infinite. You won't be able to do that with with an infinite. There is a cost to doing it, I guess is the better way to put it. But that is basically what the crowbar is doing, and it turns out that is what a lot of our early simple machines are going to be doing there. Okay. Okay, so let's move back. Let's just continue on with this thing. All right. So next machine is going to be a computer. And what the input of a computer is, easier to go with the input. Input's a little bit easier. The input of a computer, all computers are going to need electricity. Now, it's a little harder to think about what the output of a computer is. Sometimes computers, they help you write documents, they let you surf the internet, they let you play games, they let you play music, they let you do all these things. Well, kind of putting that into a single category, basically what a computer is doing, it's allowing you to manipulate and convert information into different forms. So I think the output is really, it's manipulate information. Now that there are probably better ways to state what it is that a computer does, but if you want just a simple version of what it's doing, it's turning manipulation into different useful forms that are beneficial. So if we were to put this into a sentence, we would say a computer uses electricity to manipulate information. Okay, so that is what we have when we're thinking about a computer. All right, so that's kind of what that and all computers are doing this at some level. All right, so going on to the next machine. Maybe you recognize this kind of machine. This thing is called a trebuchet. It is an old siege engine or a siege machine. And basically what happens is you put a stone down here, and then this is a heavy weight up here. When you knock the support out, the heavy weight drops. It whips this end of the trebuchet up, and that causes the stone to get thrown around and then released, and the stone goes off and strikes some distant target, hopefully. Probably takes some practice. But basically what the output of this machine is, so the output is going to be a thrown stone. Now, we can also, I'll put it in, it's really a type of motion, so it's a fast motion. So it's that stone is going really fast. You want the stone going really fast, otherwise it's not a very effective weapon. Now the input would then be the falling heavy object. So when we think about what it is that a trebuchet does, we could say a trebuchet converts a falling heavy object into, ran out of space, into a fast moving stone. Okay, so a trebuchet is converting a falling object into a fast moving stone. That's what's going on there. All right, next machine, cool little machine. This is a laser. Output, fairly straightforward. It's light, but I will note that it is kind of a special light. It's a little different than a light bulb. That's why I showed it. The special light in that it's typically only one color, and it's going in a single direction. We call that coherent collimated light when talking about lasers. But basically, it's an output of light. All lasers are going to require either a battery or to be plugged into an electricity socket. So their input is electricity. And so basically, that's our idea of what a laser is doing. A laser converts electricity into, and just to be silly, we'll just call it special light. Again, if you want the more technical definition, we could say coherent collimated light. And that, that's what kind of makes a laser different from a light bulb is it's a special kind of light, has interesting properties. Again, you want to learn more about that, I highly suggest taking physics classes. But that is basically what a laser is. All right, next one. This is a sailing ship. Whoops. Back the other way. All right. So, sailing ship. Now, the output of a sailing ship is basically motion. And we could talk about it, motion of a large object, somewhat fast. I mean, faster than people could walk, certainly faster than they could swim over water, but motion over water of a large object. Now, what's cool about the sailing ship is the input is just the wind. So, what a sailing ship does, let's say this, a sailing ship converts wind into motion of a large, heavy object. Okay, so that is what the sailing ship is going to be doing. Why it was a very useful machine, why it was useful for a very long time. All right, next one. So this is a drill. It's a very large drill. Now the output of the drill is just going to be circular motion, but it's a special kind of circular motion in that it is very high force. Drills, whether or not they're, just wood drills, the whole idea is to have that motion be forceful enough that it sort of chews up the material that it's drilling through. Okay, so you do need more than just motion. You need it to be forceful enough, and you need the tool to be created such that it can kind of break apart whatever it's drilling through. Now, in this case, the input would be some sort of electricity. Again, wood drills have electricity generated probably by a battery. I would imagine this drill is probably generated by some kind of electrical generator that runs off the engine of these things. But it could just be straight electricity as is. Or it could even be you're converting the gasoline into the motion of the drill. That's possible as well. But for the most part, most of the drills we see they convert electricity into high force circular motions. So a drill converts electricity into circular motion with, I guess we'll say large forces, with large forces. All right, so that is what the drill is doing. Now the sewing machine, which is the next one, sewing machine. For this one, the input is again going to be electricity. The output is stated somewhat similarly to the drill, but also very different. Sewing machine's a very different machine than a drill. What this is going to be doing, this will be a fast up-down motion. And that up-down motion, it's a motion that human beings could do, but not nearly as fast as the sewing machine does it. So that's basically, when we sum up the sewing machine, that's what we're talking about. A sewing machine converts converts electricity, electricity into fast up-down motion. and up-down motion that's faster than humans can do it. And the whole idea is what it's doing is it's constantly, it's got that thread attached to the thing that's going up and down, and it's running the thread back and forth through the material to create a seam and to create something that's kind of sewed together, bound together in that way. So that's what the sewing machine is doing. This next one, this is a water turbine, or turbine, pronounced different ways. Now, this one is actually part of the Grand Coulee Dam. So the output of these kinds of things is electricity. This is part of a hydroelectric dam. You can have a dam without this, but if the dam doesn't have this, it's not going to generate electricity. It's just going to kind of store the water. So the output is electricity. Now the input, basically what happens is the water is going to come and hit these fan blades. You can't see it as well. And it's going to twist the turbine, and the turbine, with some, the help of some advanced electromagnetism, converts that circular motion into, or the motion of the water into, well, the turbine converts it into circular motion, which is then converted into electricity. So the input is the motion of the water. And so that's fundamentally what this turbine is doing. It's converting motion of the water into electricity. So a turbine converts motion of, I guess I should do water turbine, because this is not the only kind of turbine. You can also have steam turbines and wind turbines that are basically converting other types of motion into electricity. So this one is the motion of water into electricity. But you can look up steam turbines. Those are what you would see in your your thermal power plants. You could do wind turbines. Those are what you see on windmills. Converting of motion into electricity is what's going on there. Okay, last one. This is a nutcracker. Now, the output of the nutcracker up here, output is just, basically it's just motion, but it's really high force motion. Basically high force, high enough force that you can crack that nut with it. Now, the input in this case, it's basically just motion from the hand, so it's another kind of motion. But we do know that the motion of the hand, unless you got a really strong grip, it's typically not enough to crack the shell of a walnut, which is why you need this machine, the nutcracker machine. So it's a lower force motion. Now, hopefully you see the similarity of this machine to another machine we talked about earlier, but we'll be revisiting these types of things later. But what this machine is doing, so a nutcracker converts low force motion into high force motion. All right, so that is what the nutcracker is doing, and I leave it to you to figure out which other machine was doing exactly the same thing. So that is it for the machines in this slideshow. You should have a few more to do on your own, so go ahead, go look for some other machines that you might see around your house, maybe in your day-to-day life, and think about what they are converting into what. Not all the machines it'll be immediately apparent to you. You can ask for help with that. That can be a good way to learn about about what certain machines do, but definitely try and figure out a few of them on your own as well. Okay, so thank you for tuning into this lesson. Take care. I'll see you next time.